Just while we're on this subject, I've talked to Dimitri about this briefly. Now, this is remediation on the past storm. Since we last met, the mayor's plan came out. We know that Goldman took some unusual steps to protect their building. The managing agents needed to respond, etc. I still have the question on my mind about storm preparedness for us, and do we need to be spending some time, spending some money, doing some work to try to understand how to better protect the neighborhood from these kinds of events?
We certainly anticipate doing that. In addition to the specific projects that were damaged, and then the remediation of those particular projects, we have instituted certain elements of mitigation against future storm and flood damage. But in addition, as you'll see when we walk through the proposed capital plan, we anticipate doing a full assessment of BatteryPark City's infrastructure over the next year or so. And I believe that that's going to be fortuitous timing for us in looking at the ability to maybe harden some assets, institute some barriers, look at materials, look at construction methodology that will enable us to have in mind as we go forward with those projects, mitigating against future flood and storm damage. We will be plugging into some of the good work that's already been done through the city's initiative, but also the state has also gone through an exercise and has generated a report as well. We know that the Port Authority across the street from us is in the process of doing their own analysis, so we will be able to plug in the recommendations and the findings from those efforts into our own efforts as we go forward in the next year.
Yeah, because I know one thing, the actions that they take can have unintended consequences for us, people around us. Things like blowing up that balloon in the tunnel that might shoot the water towards us rather than away from us. So I think
which makes it critical for us to collaborate with each other as we go forward. And I've been in contact with the Port Authority, with the city, so that we have the ability to kind of collaborate and use best practices for all of us, not just for individual property.
And a significant component of our capital plan is precisely that. In addition to meets and bounds, it takes into account Gwen's and her team's planning going forward and as they interface in this process.
So the fall is coming up in advance of our infrastructure. And I've evacuated the last two falls. I think most of the neighborhood did. So it's October. So are there things that we're going to do differently that we should be talking about, or do you have the resources to it? Do the teams have the resources to do some things differently this time? Or
we certainly do have some things that are different now. And again, taking the lessons from the last storm and where we suffered the damages, we now will have better protection at Pier A. We will have better protection at the community center and the ball fields. It's not something that's going to prevent damage should another Sandy occur, but it would certainly lessen the amount of damage. And we anticipate that as we go forward and we are able to implement some of these other infrastructure projects, we will be able to improve upon that remediation and improve upon the mitigation that we have.
I think, Martha, see, part of the challenge, as I understand it, Don, you correct me if I'm wrong, but until this recent flood, the expectation of where we needed to defend from rising tide and water was, I guess, in the Hudson River, down the bottom.
Yeah.
This came from the other side.
Cross street.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And 6 feet of water on the ball fields with glass doors to the community center. We got flooded. Now, as far as Pier A goes, that I'm pleased to hear that Pier A is going to be harder to penetrate for the water. But if we get 13-foot seas, it's tough. I think over the years, things are going to need to happen by the city, by the state, might be federal participation, whatever it is, to try to change these flows if we have a major storm like this. But I guess, you know, we're gonna just kind of do our best. So are we cognizant? Yes. Was that in everybody's mind as we were spending money on remediation? Yes. How much can we do if another 14 feet of water comes from the other side? I'm not quite sure in the short term. And I am a little nervous these things are going to be more frequent than they have been in the past, so we have to be aggressive about it.
I guess the managing agents are all taking action on their own to protect their buildings.
Well, everybody's being creative, and as you mentioned before, that the key is that we all talk to each other so that we make sure that we're not doing something that's going to impact someone else.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Downtown Alliance.